Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone. This is the Engineering Technical Graphics course. In this laboratory prep, I want to show you in CATIA how to do some different operations. I'm going to go through several of the problems here, and we'll see, hopefully this will help. First thing you notice here, I have a new part started. You can see by the part icon here. What I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to look at exercise 3.2 from the Engineering Graph or the CATIA book, and it's the sketched geometry Olympic rings one. And so I'm going to start by putting these rings on this XY plane. So again, I'm coming to the XY plane here. I'm clicking on the SXY plane, and make sure you note that your sketch toolbars is on. Now, a lot of times I don't like to work with grids, but this is one time where grids aren't a bad thing. And I'm going to kind of move my vantage point over here. I'm going to double click on my circle. Okay, I'm going to move the sketch toolbar out of the way here. Notice that it is standard geometry. If that was ready to be construction geometry. And I'm going to put a circle right in here. Okay, and get that thing out of the way again. And then I'm just going to give this circle a size so I'm consistent here. So I'm going to give this circle a size of, let's say, 30 here, a radius of 30. Not that it really matters the size of it, but I'm just giving one here, just the size of this thing. Then I'm going to come over, double click on the circle again, and move this thing out of the way once again. Coming over here, notice that now I have, let's see here, this given, and now I'm just going to give this a size right here, and let's make that, I don't know, let's make that 20. Oh, maybe 25. Let's keep it at 25. So now notice you have one of the circles, or two of the circles here sketched. Now there's different ways you can go about doing this, and I'm not going to sketch all these things out here. But I am going to show you. And again, I've used the constraints on here. You don't have to use the constraints, but again, for me, for showing you here, it just helps. Now, there's different ways you could actually do this now. You could come over here and say, okay, let's make another set of circles here. So you could come over here and say, okay, I then want to make a, and again, I'm going to put the synaptic grid on here. And let's say that I want a circle that's going to be then this big, okay? Okay, well, then I'm actually going to go over here and just kind of rambling on here, show you if I do a crossing window here from left to right. I can window in here, everything turns red, and I can delete it. Now with my grid on, I want to make this a little bit cleaner. So again, double clicking on the circle command here, getting this thing out of the way once again. Let's say, okay, let's make a circle that is about, oh, I don't know, let's go from here to there, that big, that's good. And let's put another circle again at that point and bringing it out to right here, okay? Zoom, we go in here, fit in all will allow us to see this thing on the screen easier. And let's say then I put another circle over here, and I want to bring that one out to then right here, for example. Okay. And notice that I'm not overlapping, so maybe I don't want to put it there. Maybe I should have started right here. So again, as you notice, you can change where you're at, and I wish this thing would stay out of my way here a minute. So then I want to put a circle up to, say, right, here. Another one then over here. And you kind of get the point, okay, getting out of the circle command here. Now, do I have these things the same size? It does not look like it, okay? It does not look like it. But for what I'm doing here, I'm just going to zoom up on these things, and I'm going to do some trims here, okay, different types of trims. So let's say I wanted this circle here to appear like it's going over top of the other one. If I go under this operation toolbar and I slide this down here, I will then get the relimitations toolbar, and on that relimitations toolbar you have the quick trim. So if I want to have then picking whatever I am between intersections, we'll delete it. We'll delete it here. We'll give you the appearance that that is going over top of this one. And if we just do the opposite here, clicking this one here, clicking that one there, and you can get a series of the overlapping circles here. Now there's some other commands here. We could have grabbed then, let's say this circle here. Oops, hit Control Z. I want to get out of that. I could have grabbed that circle, holding my Control key down, grabbing this one. And we have both those. And then if you go over into your transformation one, you can say, oh, I want to translate this. In other words, I want to move this thing from its current location. So I pick that. And if you duplicate it, okay, if you duplicate it, it's going to keep then it'll make more than one copy. So I'm going to make 2 of these, and I want to duplicate mode here, and then I want to say I want to duplicate it from here. And notice now as you move it, okay, as you move it from here, then I've made 2 more besides the initial one, and I placed it there, and that makes things a little bit easier. Okay, now notice where this thing was chunked out, then it also leaves gaps in here. So then maybe that's not the best idea. Let's go back in here, and let's just go ahead and let's get rid of this one. And let's again grab this one, holding my Control key down, grabbing this, using the translate command, duplicate mode. Let's say I'm going to make 3 of them this time. And I'm going to go from the center here, and again as I move it out, okay, as I move that thing out, now there's 4 of them here. I really want to pop that down to 2. So we can change that on the fly. Okay, bring this over about right where you want it. Let's say right there. And then you have the overlapping rings. Okay. And then, you come over here and do 2 of these, copy 2 of these, move them up and over. So you can say, okay, let's grab this one and that one. And I'm holding the Control to keep down that one and that one. Again, over here, I'm selecting the translate mode. I'm going from the center point here. And now I want to move this down to, let's say, 1. Okay, so you get this thing pretty much where you want it. Okay, move it up a little bit, move it up a little bit here, move it over here, move it over here. Again, I'm just kind of winging it at this point, bringing it down. And got my Olympic rings upside down, so let me bring them over here. Move this up. So then bring it down over. So now you've got the Olympic rings here. And again, you use the trim and the quick trim option. Pretty much the quick trim will give you what you want. So if you follow what it shows in the book on page 71 and give the example at the bottom, page 71, where you want things trimmed back. So you zoom up on those areas here. I got these a little bit too much overlapping here. But again, it gives you an example of the how you can use some of these different commands, like the translate command. Okay, and again, remember, you hit Control Z once you're out of that command and bring things back. Okay, so I can, say, oh, I didn't want those, and you can go back to the start, and again, you can do this again. So my starting point here, and I can say, well, now this time I want these things maybe to go, I don't know, like that distance. And let me make it one more over here to keep these straight. There we go. And then you can do the other 2 down and over. So again, now remember, I come over here now, so I'm zooming out. I'll use a crossing window. Whatever I get completely in there is going to grab this. And this time I want to pump this down to 1. So I want just 1 copy of this. And so let's say I want to start here. And then I could bring these and again pull these into position, you know, about where you want them to have, where the overlap is here. So again, let's say that, and that looks pretty close, and you can go through now and then clean these things up. Okay, again, remember the quick trim. Let's say trim this off. This off. Remember, by clicking it twice, you're keeping then the operation in session. So again, I'm clicking then this one here, and this one here, and then that, and that. Again, see, just by experimenting with this thing, you know, you're going through here and getting some experience doing the trims. Okay, actually doing the trims, and just moving some geometry around using other commands. And hopefully when you're done, you have then what looks like the Olympic rings here. Again, but this is just more along the lines of showing you how to do some trim operations, making circles, you know, using the translate command by grabbing those things and duplicating them, and then you're done with the actual sketch. Notice here's your sketch here, putting it into isometric view. There we have it, kind of upside down where you want it to, but that's why you want to check the views in here. But again, that is really how you kind of look at that assignment then 3.2. So I'm going to turn that one off. Turn that one off here. And no, I don't want to change this one here. And then this time I'm going to go to Control New again, P for part, and then I'm going to say we have a part start out here. And the next exercise I'm going to do is assignment exercise 3.3. And again, if you look at exercise 3.3, what you're doing with exercise 3.3 is you're going to create a rectangle, two circles, and a line, and then we're going to use some commands to actually end up then creating this feature as we scroll down in here. So we're going to then put some constraints on it, and then we're going to do some trims on it, do some deletes on there, and then you end up with this closed-in manifold shape that is shown on figure 3.46. So I'm drawing that back out of the way over here. Again, I want to start a new sketch, so again, I'm just going to place on the XZ plane, sketch in here. Okay, and I'm going to then, now this time, this is where I don't like the grids or the grid snap. And so then I'm going to say, okay, I am going to then start with a rectangle. Okay, so I will go over here on the profile toolbar. I can grab it here, pull this out, and the rectangle. So I'll say, okay, let's put a rectangle right up here. And the reason why I'm doing that is not by going to my sketch. I know where I'm at. Zoom up on this a little bit, and then get out of that command. Put a couple circles on here. Okay, and I still got my grid snap on, it looks like. No, I guess not. I guess I don't. Okay, so I'm going to put a circle. Notice how that wants to do an automatic alignment right there. And remember, if you don't want that, we'll just shift key down and it'll get rid of that. But I'm just going to put a circle here. Arbitrary placement. Another circle over here. And then I'm going to put a line out here. Just a line out in here. Okay. Now with that said, I'm going to do a series of constraints to constrain things in space. Now, when you look at stuff in CATIA, any that's white is not constrained. So what we're going to do is we're going to constrain some of this geometry. Okay? So your constraint toolbar, I will drag it off into the work area here in the graphics screen, is a constraint icon, a constraint toolbar. Notice it's highlighted, double picked on. Now whatever I pick first is going to constrain the other entity to this. So I'm picking this line. Now notice if I just pick on that line, it brings out a number. But if I pick on this other line here, it'll give you a value from that point. And in this time, if I hold my right mouse button down, I can then select left mouse button. It puts a tangent on here. Now, if you notice in your part here, you go into the sketch, notice that there is then a tangent constraint here. So again, whatever I pick first here, so I'm still in my constraint. So I'm going to say I'm going to pick this, left click. Now notice your constraint is on the wrong side. Okay. So at this point in time, I can swap the location. Okay. I can swap the location here again. It doesn't like that because it's trying to swap this whole thing. So I'm going to pick out. So on this one, you got to watch for your picking. So again, I want to pick over here on that closest side, over there. Now, if I right click, it's going to give me tangent. It's going to move that line up. So let's say I want to pick then this line here, and that circle there. Right click on that. It's going to shove that circle up. Okay. And then if I pick then this line here and that circle top there, it will then pull that circle up. Okay. And then now we have a series of constraints. We're going to put 1, 2, 3, 4 tangents in here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend and trim some of these lines out because I have to have a completely closed area. I have one closed area here, another closed area here, another closed area, and then I have this line sitting out here giving us problems. So what I'm going to use is I'm going to use the trim command. I'm going to say I want to grab what I want to keep, what I want to keep. Notice what I'm keeping here. I want to keep this, and I'm picking way away from the intersection point. So if I want to keep this line, I want to pick it out here. I stay away from the intersection point there. I want to pick that part of the arc, go up to here and pick that. Now we have those lines in here. I'm going to escape out, grab this and delete it, grab that there and delete it. Now notice we have a sketch. Back out of the sketch. Okay, there it is. Then if I come over here and I get on the sketch-based features toolbars, I can select pad. Notice when this is red and it's got a length of 20 millimeters or a distance from front towards back. There you've created that. From that sketch you've created a pad. Go back and look at the sketch. Okay, there's the sketch. So now the sketch, if I grab this sketch, okay, or if I just grab one line of this sketch, notice since it's not constrained, it's white, it'll change shape pretty readily. Okay, so it's a non-constrained sketch at that point. And we'll get more into actually constraining these sketches here in a little bit. But again, that is pretty quick and dirty on exercise 3.3. So now let's look at exercise 3.4. So again, I'm going to turn this one off. No, I don't want to save changes this. And now I'm going to go File, Open, and I'm going to shuffle through my computer here to find it. So for me, it is, let's see here. I don't know where it's at, to be honest with you. Let me just take a second here and make sure that I do have this thing. Bear with me here a second. Okay, open this up here, and let's see here. I want to go to my assignments, or my curriculum, assignments, CAD, tangent trim. I want to grab this file here, copy it into my career account, which is under CGT 163, and I'm going to place it right there so I have access to it. Now let's go back into CATIA. So I'm going to go to File, Open, and wait a minute here while CATIA chugs along here, and I'm going to open this tangent and trim file up. Now I'm going to take some observations of this file here. Notice here is this file. It may not be exactly as yours appears in a book, but it's very, very similar. You see geometry sitting out there in space. But again, the critical thing is I want to look at this specification tree. I open this specification tree up and I notice there's one sketch. So what people will try to do, they'll try to start a new sketch. You do not want to start a new sketch here. You want to go back into the existing sketch and open that sketch up. Okay, and again on this one, what you're going to do is you're going to do a series of constraints and trims, and you're going to clean this thing up. So just watch as I go through here. And I'm going to do this fairly quickly, but you can rewatch again. So again, I'm going to say I want to make this line here and that circle tangent, okay? And then I want to make this tangent to that. Now notice at this point that line becomes green. The green geometry is tangent. All this geometry here is based off of decimal and other constraints here, okay? So I'm going to go through there and say, okay, now we have that, okay? Now I'm going to say, well, let's go upward and onward here. So I'm going to grab then this line and that arc, make those tangent, okay? And now, if you pull out the command, if it's not right, you can pull this thing down easier. Let me zoom over here, move over here a minute, zoom up, and say, okay, let's go over here now. Let's make then that line there and this circle tangent. Again, notice that is turned green. So I'm going to go to the upper ones here, the top ones here, and look at this thing straight ahead. Flip it back over here again. And we're still in the constraint command, so make this and that tangent, and that tangent. And then coming down over here, I will make then this and this tangent. And I think I let the circle out of this particular problem here. Let me just double check. Yeah, I did leave one circle out, so let me just throw another circle in here quickly. There's a circle, let's say right here. And I'm going to constrain this circle rapidly. Let's see how to constrain that. I want to say, oh, this size here. And then I want to say that is going to be equal to this. And hit OK. Maybe. And we may have meltdown here. So let's get into the sketch. Get into the constraints. Radius of 4. Take that one. So we have that. And then we can say, okay, I want this circle to be sitting approximately, say, right in here somewhere. So I'm just going to take and move it over. And I'll say, okay, to control its location, I want to go then from right here to right there. And I'm going to put a horizontal measure here, and then from right here to right there. And it always goes to the shortest distance, but I'm like, this is a vertical measure. Now we have that circle constrained. So if there's not a circle in there, put a circle in there, constrain it. Okay? And let's see here, I have to move this thing over something. It's way too far out here. So I'm going to move this thing in like 30 just to give an example. Oh, let's make it 20. And getting a little bit more than what you expected here, but I want to go into here and I'm going to basically stuff out of the way. Get out of my way here. You want to keep going back over there, don't you? Okay. Well, let's see here. This thing is giving me some issues. So let's work around those. Make that 200. And what I'm doing is I'm looking for the offset value for the bottom one. There's an offset. Let's make this one here struggle here to figure this out. It's 200. Where is that one at? It just keeps popping up here. You little rascal, you. Okay. Okay, well, I'm going to back out of this thing a second here. And I'm going to go to my constraints. And for some reason, I'm trying to turn some of these on so you can see them. And that just blows everything away. Okay. Well, that's always lovely. Okay. So I'm going to exit out of this problem here again. And we're going to go back into it here. I'm going to go to File. I'm going to go to Tangent Trim. Go back into the sketch. And if I could make this value here, let's go back into the constraints. And I want to show all these constraints. If I grab this one here, these here, I should be able to show those. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we're showing you that. Now let's make this value here, let's say 300. Push that thing out. Now it doesn't like that. Notice it's red. Okay, so I'm going to come over here and hit Escape. Control Z, bring that back. Turn these back on again. So we're working around a problem here. And then I'm going to delete then this constraint right here. Red says you have conflicting constraints. So now if I go over here, let's make this 300. Now we have that over here. Now, okay, now if I go and put another circle in here, let's say right here. And I'm going to give you a file here. It doesn't have all this cleanup on it. So I'm going to put that over here. I'm going to make this equal to this one. And hit OK. And now I want to save this thing as Tangent Trim. Now we're back to where we started here. Okay, again, mistakes help you a lot. They get you frustrated, I know, but they do help you out a lot. So, in this case, this is totally constrained, this one is totally constrained, but these aren't. So again, let me just see if I can put another constraint then from this point right, let's say that point there, up to make that a, okay, let's do that again, come on, big boy. Again, I want to go from this midpoint right here to this point right here, and I want this to be then a vertical measure, and then I want to go from that point there, making that one a horizontal measure, and then going from that point there, and making then, that was supposed to be a vertical measure. Let's do it again. From that point right there, that point, I don't want the radius, I want the point. Purple means over constrained. Let's delete that constraint out. So I will try then from the other point. I'll try going from this point right here to that point right there. Now do a vertical measure, and now all these things are green, so they're totally constrained on this sketch. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here so it makes it easier to see, and I'm going to hide these constraints that are existing. So I'm going to grab this one, and I'm going all the way down to the bottom and highlight all of them. In this case, I right-click and hide them, so it makes it easier to see. Now let's get back to where we were after all this. So now I'm going to take this line here and make it easier, I'm going to drag it over. You know, maybe get a little bit closer to the orientation I want by grabbing the lines, you know, dragging this one over here. You know, maybe make it a little bit longer here. And then grabbing this point here, dropping it down and make it longer there. You know, saying I want this line here to be over. Let's move then this part of it down to here. Again, just trying to get these entities closer so when I go to do some of my operations, they're just easier to do. Probably the most critical one is this one here. So I'm going to again this end of the point line here, and then making a little bit longer here, and a little bit longer here. Okay, so there we have that. Now, again, zooming up where I started at before I realized my error, but again, errors make you learn better. So I'm going to come over here and say I want now that and that to be tangent, and I'm just going to fly all the way around here to there, tangent. And then notice I'm picking the line and the part, I'm not picking close to those points. I'm picking the arc here, the line back in here. Don't stay away from the actual really tight locations. So again, I'm picking back here, picking back. You pick into here, it can get confusing for the geometry to be figure out the database to figure out what you want. That there to there, tangency, and then this line here up to there, tangency, and then this line here to there, tangency, and then that to that to that is tangency, and then that to that to that is tangency. Now if you notice, everything is indeed green. Okay, everything is indeed green. So now we need to make this thing a closed entity. So I'm going to come over here and say I'm going to zoom up on this thing pretty tight. Drag this down. Zoom up on it here, pulling it over. I'm saying now this time I'm going to use the regular trim. I want to keep this, and I want to keep that. I want to keep this, and I want to keep that. Zoom back out a little bit. Okay, go up. Zooming into this area here. If I can get zoomed in there, that is. So again, I'm still in the trim command. Notice here, I want to keep this and keep that. I want to keep this and I want to keep that. Grab it, that is. That and that. So I'm going to pan over here. See if I can do any quicker panning it this way. And there it is. Keep this and keep that. Keep that and keep that. Let's go up the side here. I'm going to skip that area right in here because I'm going to keep this. Again, stay away from the intersection. Keep that. Notice I'm dragging this thing way out of wave, so I want to keep that part of the arc. I'm going to keep this part of the line right in here. So stay away from the actual intersection point. Now here then, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to extend then this line up to then this arc. Now we're really going to zoom in here. And then I want to keep this arc right here and that part of the line right there. And I missed it. Okay, so notice there's an issue. So I'm going to hit escape, hit Control Z. Okay, now I'm going to try to get on this part of the arc right in here. Okay, so then I'm going to go back into the trim. I'm going to say I want this. I want to keep this. And I want to keep that. So you really got to be careful when you zoom up in there. I'm going to then fit in all. Here's my shape. Okay, a little bit different maybe than the one that you worked on. Coming back out of here, notice that I don't see any black dots on here. So then I can check to see if it works. And then you have that geometry shown right there at that point. So again, that just kind of gives you a overview of how to do that exercise 3.3 and 3.2, and let's see here, and the one I just did was what? It was in 3.4. Okay, so that gives you basically some explanation on how to create use different trims to create things, trim tools, you know, the quick trim versus the regular trim, different constraints, making sure everything is green, so it's completely constrained. And that really will end up then, if I conclude the laboratory prep 03. And so I hope everybody has a good evening. Everybody take care. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.